on the difference between virtual reality and augmented reality.
Yep. Am I still mic'd here, or I'll use this. Yeah, so if anyone saw my previous one, I went through the whole sort of spectrum, but mainly we're talking here about virtual reality or augmented reality. Virtual reality is where your reality is replaced by another. So you're put into another reality. Most of us know that as you put on a headset. You look kind of dorky from there, but you're getting a great experience. People who are outside are not getting a great experience. But the point is you're immersed. And one of the things I said in my Pecha Kucha yesterday is that's obviously visual virtual reality. We could create virtual reality for blind people as well with just purely auditory. So it's just about replacing your reality. And then augmented reality is about adding to the reality around you. So it's adding to the environment that you're in, adding information, visualization, whether it be data, objects, or other things. But it's being added into the world around you.
Okay. Can I just ask the assistant there to get the Pigeonhole app up and running for us, please? So we'll be using Pigeonhole in this session, so you can start to add questions into the mix. Okay. All right, so it's good that we've had Rob kind of give us a bit of an introduction today, but I wanted to expand a little bit more on the concept of IoT and how that's related to augmented reality. Arshi, do you want to have a go at that one? Why should we be speaking about Internet of Things and augmented reality? What's the relationship between the two things?
As Rob just said, it's a match made in heaven. Actually, it's like a match made in heaven, and this was more evident, and it's getting more and more evident as we move forward in IoT sector and industrial IoT sector. And actually, IoT is all about sensors and putting things in place, connecting machines to other machines. But then there is no visibility there. So augmented reality is the one which make it very visible for humans to see what is happening in your workspace. If you are in a ship, if you are in an oil rig or a factory, you will be able to see. And there is a lot of situational awareness which can be generated using these sensors. And that situational awareness can be projected right in front of your eyes as you're working in the factory. So when you're working in a factory, walking around, the sensors are there. They know what is happening in the background, but you cannot see that. So if there is a leakage in a valve somewhere and it is leaking a very hazardous gas, it will tell you in your augmented reality goggle that please do not go there, and right now you should move on the left rather than right. And that's where you will save your life and do some other things. So things like that. So these two things are very much together. And as I always say, the augmented reality is not just augmenting the reality. It's all about augmenting the human potential. Yeah.
Okay. So if we think about the IoT as a sensor deployment, effectively, as a sensor networks laid out in 3 dimensions, then augmented reality becomes, as Rob put it, a layer of information that sits over top of the Internet of Things, right?
I wish to add, just from the industrial use case perspective, we are looking at the knowledge worker concept. Players like GE have a platform which brings in their workers to the next level of interaction with the IoT sensors and their ongoing daily work activities. In this context, the productivity is improved by almost 40% than the traditional method of going into the daily activities. So a combination of IoT with a AR experience, bringing that into the knowledge workspace means better productivity, more gains, and also more enhancement of the skills from the smart worker side. This has been proven in institutions like GE, and in this part of the world, Rio Tinto, our mining company in Australia, has done a pilot project also, and results are quite favorable.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that mining project? Yeah.
This initiative with Rio Tinto was driven by Accenture. They have an IoT center here in Singapore, which is a leading research facility for the whole of Asia Pacific. When we looked at the requirement from Rio Tinto, the question was how best a mining worker can be prepared before he or she enters the mine. And in spite of like the safety precautions that's been taken, but if you have to visualize the whole experience, you can't do it in real time in the mine. We had to create a scenario, first in a VR experience environment on a 1:1 scale. Then with the PPE, the personal protection equipment, you go into the AR experience, try it out, and in case if there is any safety issues or hazards happening on the mine, the command and control room can get the sort of feelers through the sensors and trace the mining workers at different levels in the mine. And this has been a complete scenario that has been marked out as a pilot project, and now we are trying to roll it out in other mines also.
Okay. So the industrial applications for IoT and AR are much more clear than the consumer applications, right? Arshi, you've had some experience, quite a lot of experience in the industrial world with oil and gas. And can you give any kind of real-world examples where AR is used now?
Yes, we are seeing in our own business, we are seeing this is happening at the moment, that a lot of big companies, they are having shortage of experts. There's lots of people with toolbox, but they don't know how to fix machines, which button to push. They are there at site. They are in front of the machine. They are not able to fix it. They need expert. And that's where we are using augmented reality to connect the experts who are somewhere in the other country or busy on other work site, and then we are letting them telecommunicate with each other using the augmented reality, and then remotely they are guiding the technicians who are at site in front of, say, a pump or a turbine or a winch. And then, so this is the way we are scaling the reach of limited limited number of experts available. And a lot of machines are old, and the companies, they don't want to replace machines. But then as the machine goes old, the experts about those machines are also getting older and older. And then they are not in a physical shape to go on board the ship or in the very hazardous area or factory, climb the stacks and stuff like that. But they have a lot of knowledge, and that knowledge goes to waste. And then all these trainings and all that has to be done at the training rooms and things like that. But what we are seeing is now the experts who are remotely sitting in office, comfortably connecting 5 or 6 different sites in a day, which is impossible. And that is the reason augmented reality has been used to scale the reach of these experts. And then we're extending their knowledge to the new employees who are coming into this company. So we have clients like Tesla, we have clients like Boeing, Caterpillar, ABB, Philips, Procter & Gamble, many big companies, they're already using it, including some insurance companies, yeah.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the augmented reality technology can enable older workers to stay in the workplace longer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of a good news story for technology, and a lot of people are worried about, technology, robots are going to take my jobs, but actually there are some additive aspects, especially around AR, right? So I think that's a really great story. Older workers, expertise, knowledge, perhaps not able to get out in the field, particularly in industry. Yeah, reinvigorated
exactly.
This way.
I mean, the augmented reality is one of the technologies which, I mean, when people talk about technology, IoT, robots, and digitization, there's always this sideline story which is like, oh, we are going to lose jobs. We are going to reduce number of people in the factory or in the workspace. And augmented reality is one such technology which actually helps people to bring back to work those who are actually not able to do things physically in places like in the hazardous situations, and because of some physical conditions, they can come back to work. We can bring back these people because they have a lot of knowledge, and this knowledge can be transferred. So there's a lot of potential in knowledge transfer using augmented reality. It's a very human-centric technology.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I just ask Christine, can you please get the Pigeonhole app up and running and visible there? Okay, look, I want to pursue a little bit more on the ability of AR to deliver work, to deliver jobs and employment back into the economy. But before I expand on that, I just want to ask Vanessa a little bit about the VRAR Association. Can you explain how the association...
Sure. So the VRAR Association is a global and the largest association right now in this space. And our mission that we chose to set is to promote a vibrant industry. And for Singapore being an international hub, we'd like to help the Singapore businesses to extend beyond Singapore and across the world.
Okay.
So if you'd like to expand on the industrial use, AR for industrial use, I come from the coalition and from the retail space. So I see AR as a great tool for retailers to market their products in the 3D environment to their customers. We live in a 3D world. Why don't we market in a 3D, on a 3D platform to customers? Why don't we communicate and talk to them in a 3D platform? So that's where we are at, and that's where I think we are going towards.
Hey, can you just turn my lapel mic on? Can you turn my mic on? Because then I can share this mic. I feel greedy having two mics. Okay, they're going to sort it out at some point. Hang on. Is that on now? Yeah, it's on? Okay, it's just not well set. Okay, so all right, I'll use this one, forget it. Sorry, as I said, I felt greedy having two mics. Just adding on to that and talking about the workforce, I think, well, one thing, I may be crazy, but I want a robot to take my job so I can go to the beach. But putting that aside, one area where we will generate a lot of jobs is in content creation. So one of the I call it sort of the dirty secret of AR at the moment is that all these models and everything that we're doing are fantastic, but someone has to create those models. Someone has to build those models. They don't just appear out of thin air. And so I think, one of the things that I work with a lot in Australia is the local graphics universities and colleges and those organisations that are producing graphic engineers and creative designers who are then going to build these models and create that content. So that's another way that we're creating jobs.
Yeah, so it's absolutely really an important fact, I think. We talk about what's the issues in AR kind of coming to market, and content is a really important aspect of that. I just want to go to Sridhar quickly because yesterday Sridhar's company Eon was involved in an AR product launch that we did with Epson and the Sofitel Singapore in Robinson Road. And Eon Reality were responsible for the application that was built for the Epson Moverio headsets. Did a really fantastic job. The guys did an awesome job, I must say. But what was really clear from that project is that, again, that the content is such an important missing aspect. And so we'll need an ecosystem of different companies and different people with different skill sets in order to deliver on that. So Sridhar, do you just want to take that question and talk a little bit about what Eon does and how it's able to contribute? Yeah?
Sure. First, a great effort for yesterday's innovative project with Sofitel. It was more of like a hospitality launch to showcase the boutique hotel. We had like a few spots within the hotel lobby and within the rooms to showcase like a marker-based AR experience. And the launch was quite a success because it was worked in association with the curator and the hotel manager, and it's a part of the storytelling. See, the technology can be only so limited, but the presentation and the storytelling and the content part has to be the glue that brings the user experience. And in this context, we had all the right stakeholders there. Now, sharing a bit about Eon, we have been in the industry for 17 years, and any entrepreneurs here, you may think that like this is too long a race for us to have an exit and make money out of it. But in reality, we have been the only company that has been focused on industrial applications, which helps our clients to learn faster, decide better, and remember longer. These three fundamentals we have been able to bring down to clients like Boeing, Exxon, and educational sectors. Over the 17 years in the industry, we have seen like high-end silicon graphics being the workstations to now mobile phones having graphics card which can be enabling your 3D space. So to that, Google Tango is coming with where you are not able to sort of have a marker-based environment, but you can map your own surroundings and bring the experience forward. So in this journey, our mantra has been very clear. We are a platform player. Today it may be Google Glasses, tomorrow it may be Oculus, HTC Vive, whoever the hardware partners that come along the way, our content should be scalable. And we call the concept as from phone to dome. Means we are able to create an IMAX type of a multi-user experience in a dome type of a theater setup to bringing the experience on your mobile phone for smart learning. This is more about the activities what we as a company do. In the context of a unique user experience, I would like to share a case study out of Ethiopia. We have UNIDO, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, that approached us saying that in Ethiopia we have a huge challenge. It's mainly to bring the youth to the workforce. There were UNIDO grants, CEDA grants, and Volvo wanted to bring in a transformation in the way they learn. We customized an AR application for diesel engine where with the help of 20 tablets, instead of assembly disassembly process, and if they have only one engine component in the workshop, it takes about 3 days for them to have a instructor to guide them. They wanted to see how the students can learn in the AR experience part. Today, that effort has yielded us to start a center in Ethiopia, mainly for content creation there, by involving the youth through the universities and through Volvo and CEDA to start a workshop which will be aimed at creating about 300 jobs. So this has a far-reaching application when it comes to even developing countries, not just developed countries.
Okay, thanks,
Just
Sridhar.
add to the point about content creation, this workforce. So we find that for our studio in UK, Holishan, we work with students. We cultivate a lot of talent in students to enhance the skills in user experience and design. So that's a key skill right now for the new workforce. Because AR UX is highly important. You need to have very high quality user experience.
Yeah. Christine, can I just ask you to put up the questions, please, with the voting for people to see?
I thought that was the question. I just did a really
Yeah, no, that's the first question we did right at the beginning. So,
You said, I think, did you say phone to dome? So in Australia, dome would be taken as slang for head. So phone to head, that works pretty well.
It's iDome.
Yeah,
It's like an immersive dome.
yeah, yeah. If you can just put up the pigeonhole questions, there's a view where they can see what's being voted for and how many votes, and can enter in their questions. That would be really useful. Thank you. Okay, so developing an AR ecosystem, building content. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are involved in that. Do anyone have a thought on whether the content that's going to come is going to be bespoke, tailor-made, as if it's made by a media company? Is it going to be user-generated? Is it going to be data that's coming from sensors? Or is it going to be generated, artificial intelligence content? How anybody have a thought on how that's going to evolve?
So I think let me try and do this. Let me do this. So I think all of the above. I think in the short term, so what Auggd does is we're specialising in the built environment, the industry called the built environment, and that's anything from construction, engineering, architecture, real estate, so all the buildings around you or anything that's built around you, that's sort of our focus. And part of the reason for that is, what relates to your question is, that there's typically 3 things that I tend to tell potential clients when they're asking about AR for their application. The 3 questions you need to ask. One is, what's the compelling reason for the technology? So a lot of the criticisms of AR are that, I can do that on a flat screen. Why do I need to do that in a headset or in a virtual world? So that question has to be answered, and if you want answers, I can give you examples with industry. The second question is what we've been talking about. Where's the content coming from? So are we creating the content, as you said, or is the content available? And that's why we're targeting the built environment, is because generally the content is available. And what I mean by content in this case are the 3D CAD models. So, if you're building a building, at some point you're building an architectural model, at some point you're converting that into a construction type model that has every nut and bolt and screw and everything in there. We can actually take those models out of the CAD software and put them into our platform and use them in AR. So I think that's a prime example of where the content is being created anyway for the purposes of construction or engineering, and we're just reusing the content. And just to finish my third question, what is the longevity of the experience is the third question I asked. So are we building a real estate tool that is going to be used for the next couple of years, or are we building an experience that's only going to be used at the IoT Asia conference? These are sort of important characteristics in terms of user experience.
When we talk about industries, any industries, construction, manufacturing, oil and gas, whatever, a lot of work is done in operations and maintenance, not more into new buildings or new constructions and new setups. More work is there in operations and maintenance, because a factory is built, it takes maybe 2 years to build a factory, but that factory will work for next 15, 20, 30 years and hire thousands of people and produce millions of product. And that is where a lot of work is involved. And then as a person from industry, I have seen machines fail. The same failure can have many attributes, and so to have a content for that particular failure or to attend to that particular failure, one content is not right, because same machine, same turbine or same pump or same winch can fail in 100 different ways. And every time it's a different situation. And that's where the human interface is very important, but with augmentation of what you're looking at. And that's where the content is very important. But then we cannot depend on something which is tailor-made or ready-made out there in the system, and then you layer it up on top of that machine. So the content has to be very dynamic, and then we have to come up with the solutions which my company, we are trying to do. Auggd is trying to do that. We democratize the content creation so that everybody can create their own content. And then, because the people, those who are operating these machines, these factories or these ships, they know these things much better than people like us, or IT people, I call them, because they are just, these are the tools. It's like pen and pencil and paper, but the artist is the one who is actually, who has the imagination and the use for this particular situation. So content creation has to be open, and the propagation of AR will only depend based on the content. So content is very important. If you look at Facebook, if you look at Pinterest, Snapchat, whatever, it's all user generated. Everything is user generated. So user generated content is very important.
So thinking about the content and thinking about the user experience, and you alluded to this when you spoke before, Rob, we all have mobile phones, we all have tablets, and these are computers that we carry with us, and they're kind of a gateway to augmented reality. But from my perspective, I actually find that the handsets are not a great device for augmented reality. They were never meant for augmented reality. They were built for surfing the web and looking at applications that are contained within those devices. I find it kind of awkward, and my experience is that I find the headset experience much more natural. It allows me to put the content and the images up in place, overlaid on the world, and also leaves my hands free, right, to move through. So I believe that what's required is a what we call an eyeglasses moment, a headset that's really going to be a breakthrough device. And so there's a question voted up from the audience here: is RAR headsets ready for mainstream consumer adoption or even for industrial adoption? And if not, how long will it take until they are?
One more thing I would like to add about the content, and as we are talking about IoT here, not purely AR, I think the future content will have some element of IoT helping in content creation. So especially I'm talking about industrial applications on AR, and there'll be a lot of content which has inputs from the IoT sensors. So for example, if a turbine fails, the turbine has hundreds of sensors, and this content will modify itself to give you that visualization of failure using the live situation on the turbine that which particular vein has failed and which particular valve has damaged and at what time and what was the orientation and what was the pitch of the blade and stuff like that. So yes, the content will actually blend and be a very dynamic live thing.
So how long until
Using-
that changes from being a smartphone to being a headset?
Yeah, the technology is there right now, and it's just that people need to bring this together. The IoT people and the AR people need to talk together with the operational technology people, because without them it is impossible. And there is a very great big wall between the IT guys and OT guys, and that has to be broken. And so you need the people in the industry who are coming from the OT side, who are coming with this dual edge. Without that, it is a very big task to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I disagree on the mobile phones, but we all have opinions.
Why,
I mean,
why do you disagree?
it definitely wasn't built, primarily for that. But when you look at the hardware that's in a mobile phone, it's perfect for AR, right? Because you've got compasses, you've got gyros, you've got a fantastic screen, you've got interactivity, touch screen. The gyro is most of the complex technology in a headset. So. And that's just available in your mobile phone now. I believe it was originally put in so that, when you rotate your phone, it could switch between landscape and portrait, but more importantly, when you held it up to your ear, it would turn off the screen. So definitely developed for a different reason, 100% agree with that. But, then, as I said, by coincidence, it's the technology you need to put in the hands of everyone billions of these display devices. I definitely agree on... the OT is the problem. I think there's a couple of hills you have to get over. I think mainstream headsets are probably 2 years away, is my opinion. And even then, I kind of think, until it gets to a form factor where it's like someone's glasses, who's wearing glasses, it'll be like the microwave. It'll be something that everyone will have one because it'll be definitely useful, but you won't use it all the time. We all have microwaves, but we still cook on stovetops and that sort of thing. We use the microwaves for a specific purpose, and I think you'll use the glasses for a specific purpose, whether it's your industrial application or if you're, as I said, a police officer or something and you're wearing the visor for that. But there's a couple of big hills to get over. One hill is the one that you talked about, which is the current ones are just ungainly, uncomfortable. They might not even be safe yet. We haven't really figured that out. And then the other hill is the fashion thing. They look horrible and you look like an idiot when you're wearing them. So, you got to get over those couple of hills as well, I think. So as I said, couple of years away. It's definitely technology that's great. If you get a chance to try the headsets, it'll blow your mind, but it's a couple of years away from...
I think the fashion, as you said, is changing, and maybe they will become fashionable very soon. So if you are not wearing them, you are not cool enough.
I had a lady. Maybe we can get the female perspective, because I had a lady tell me, a few days ago about the VR headset. When I said, "Hey, take a look at this great VR application," she said, "I just got my hair done. There's no way in hell I'm putting that thing on."
So actually, so Holish in the UK, we've done the largest augmented reality fashion show for Dunhill in Shanghai. We had 1,000 people in the room, 50 over male models on the stage. Everything else was digital, and they can view it and experience it without the headset or goggles. So there was augmented reality in the large scale.
What were they using to view it?
Storytelling.
Yeah, but what technology were they using to view the augmented reality? It sounds great.
3D projection.
3D projection? Oh, so like holograms.
Yes.
Hologram. Excellent. Wow, that sounds cool.
So
That's the tech that I think will be cool.
Greg, I wish to bring a different element for the audience and also for the panels to consider. This is like a bit of our experience over the years. It's not the consumer adoption based on the devices. It's also based on how our human brain functions. Traditionally, all the data, if you see in the way we have grown, has been processed in 2D, X, Y, and Z axis, whether it's text-based learning, image-based, or video-based. The moment you bring the VR, AR, you're introducing the Z axis, the depth, X, Y, Z, means that's where the 3D element comes in. And it takes some amount of time for the human mind to process the data in 3D. So for some who are not used to, they may have a bit of like a challenge to process the information. And for some, between the eyesight and also the experience, especially if you go into the immersive systems and see the depth, They would not be ready to take it. So if I bring the consumer adaptation here, it's not just the devices. For example, Oculus came up first with the sort of a head-mounted device which was connected through the wire. But it was not Oculus which made the impact in the market. It was HTC Vive, because they gave another element where your hands were also involved in the experience. So when it comes to the 3D world, the user experience is hands-on, minds-on, also emotional aspect of the hearts-on. If you connect these three, then the user experience is much more solid. The learning experience, some of the findings have been like the retention rate goes from 30 to 80%. So we are targeting industry, not just kids, but those who are into the workforce, those who have been experienced through different devices now, and most of them are digital native. So when we go into the consumer adaptation, these are like some of the human elements that has to be brought into the design and the experience.
I just want to add, actually, when we talk about augmented reality, it's more than just visual, right? Because it can be audio, it can be haptic. There are many other, all of our senses can be kind of augmented with information. My personal view is the virtual reality industry has some issues now to grow. I think augmented reality has many more applications, particularly for industry. So I think the consumer will probably come last in this conversation. It's starting with businesses, and the businesses have the budget, and they're not so concerned about fashion when it comes to buying business tools. But a question from the audience again, the AR, VR thing has come and gone before. You know, VR was around in the 1980s. But what is needed to sustain it now so that it will not fall to the wayside like it has previously?
I think the question for association is, how can we help make the AR and VR mainstream? And through our members, we really help to promote use cases in the industry. And they can go on and be innovative and work with businesses. I think that's one way to do it. But for consumers, it's a really hard question. How do you...
Well, there needs to be the content, right?
Yeah,
Otherwise,
exactly.
there's no reason to get the headset. Yeah.
I think it's all about value and what value any technology brings to you. Either you are working in a factory, industry, or in a retail, or in your personal life. Why we buy things. We always seek value in when we buy things, we adopt things. Why we are using Samsung phone and iPhones and stuff like that. Why we buy certain model of car, because we see value in that. So we have to identify that value, and everybody has a different definition of value to same thing. So the value is been already quantified and justified in industrial setup. We have seen it ourselves, and some of our clients, they have the ROI within a week or within just one trip. In one trip, if they save a trip for their engineer to travel from Singapore to Myanmar to go and give 5 minutes instruction to power plant technician, they're saving $3,000-4,000 in travel and time and hotel and stuff like that. So there is a value. So they quickly snap up these things. So these kind of value has to be quantified and seen by consumers for the mass market adaptation.
But thinking about the industrial applications, can any of the panelists point to examples from mining and equipment maintenance? Are there any use cases that are actually in production in the real world now?
Yeah, there are. We have Caterpillar is one of our client, and they use it. They use it for their customers. So sometimes what happens is the machines are there in front of you, and as a customer, you are afraid of pushing wrong buttons. And just for that, you will call the service engineer to come all the way in front of the machine and telling you, push this button, and then you are okay to go. So if this can be done remotely, both of them are actually gaining value out of it. I don't have, as a Caterpillar company, I don't send my technician all the way there so that this technician can be attending many other sites or be there doing something else. Whereas the customer, he don't have to wait till the technician arrive and then the machine is down, so the downtime is reduced. So these technologies are used for, because in industries it's all about uptime. We are talking about 99, 99.5, that kind of uptime. If you cannot achieve that, these are the KPIs in industries. And if you can achieve that with minimal amount of effort, technology, and money, there is nothing like that. And yeah.
Yeah. Rob, do you know much about what's happening in Australia? The mining industry, the Rio Tintos, the BHP? Where are they up to with this?
Yeah, I'm not connected too much into the mining industry yet, but large-scale engineering. So we do a number of projects around, and this is another sort of application for industry that's not quite in the same area as what was just discussed, but visualizing assets, large-scale construction on site before they're constructed. So we've done a number of train stations, we've done some highway interchanges and things like that. And it's built for the engineers. The engineers can go on site, again with an iPad at the moment, but we're working on HoloLens examples. They can go on site, they can look around the site, which is just a dirt, plot, and they can see the whole construction there, and they can visualize and identify any potential issues with the construction that's going on. So at the large scale sort of engineering side, we're doing a number of those sort of projects.
And are any of those so are they working with are they working with the BIM files? How are they bringing that about?
Yeah, so they give us access into their CAD diagrams and also the BIM databases and that sort of thing, and we can directly visualize it from there. And using GPS, we can accurately place it in their location on the site of where it is. And so, as I said, they can walk around and have a look at that asset before its construction's even started.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So I believe that in May, maybe not so much use to you here, and when you'll be back in Australia, but we're going to have a DAQRI helmet out here in Singapore to demo, and we'll be working with a couple of partners here to bring in the Autodesk BIM Rivet files into the headsets and then visualize the construction drawings, actually be able to see if it works, which is my first.
Right. So
question.
that's what we do now on mobile devices, directly with the Revit files, interacting with the Revit files.
Okay, and what's been the customer experience with that?
They're coming back for more, so they must love it. No, they really are liking it, and as I said, going to the next step. So one of our customers in particular basically, has loaned us a HoloLens because we've been doing the mobile applications, and they're doing pretty much every project. They're adding in an augmentation, but now they've said, okay, we want to see what you can do with a HoloLens now. And
what do you think you can do with it?
Same sort of application, although a lot of what we do with some of the visualizations are 360 panoramas, which are not suited to the HoloLens, because obviously the HoloLens is the world around you, so you're not substituting a 360 panorama. But I think the real killer application there is going to be around the collaboration. So being able to have multiple people wearing the HoloLens and being able to sort of point and locate items on the model, and having that go through to other people's displays and having them interact that way, which is something that I'm not aware of has been done too much yet, but you guys might have some other projects.
Sridhar, you've been experimenting with HoloLens as well. Any thoughts on that? What's the potential? Is there potential, beyond industrial applications here, construction, but what about in the office?
HoloLens, mainly for the design reviews, it has been quite a good success. Again, like the CAD data is already available, and then we should be able to bring that into a collaborative review before the final design is being brought out. One of the automobile manufacturers is looking at it, and I can't...
Auto?
Yeah. Car manufacturers. It is going to be a very good collaborative review tool. And also we are trying to bring that into museums, and there is a pilot project that's right now going on. And on the education, in terms of like learning experiences also, we are trying a pilot project with the schools. Currently we have 2 schools going ahead with Microsoft HoloLens to try it out.
In Singapore?
In Singapore.
Are you allowed to say which ones, or we wait? We wait.
We'll wait. We'll wait that. There will be a sort of a formal launch coming out in a couple of months on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just with people who've tried the HoloLens, I haven't done this part. Have you had a go at the everyday applications, the email, the calendar? What's the experience like that?
Yeah, I mean, surfing the web on a virtual screen is really strange. It's just strange, I can say, because what happens is, you suddenly have a virtual screen here, and it's got Explorer, and then you can interact with it and surf the web. So, the theoretical application there is that you don't need a screen on your desk anymore. You can just have the screen pop up anywhere. Personally, as I said, it's kind of strange, and I wonder about the focal issues. You're focusing on something that doesn't there. That may or may not be a problem.
I tried it, and I found it quite uncomfortable.
Okay. I look at
especially if you're standing in front of the audience and giving them open flying cases there.
It's a very uncomfortable contraption. I think the goggles are much better.
It's a question to the panelists, well, to the guys. So do you guys, how do you find smart tables, working on smart tables and just,
what do you mean by smart table?
Smart tables, instead of goggles or headset.
You mean with projections? Yeah, better. So I think there's one point I want to make is that it's a point that media theorist Marshall McLuhan made in the 1960s, is that whenever a new technology comes around, people apply the media, the content from the medium that preceded it to it. So an example of that is the first radio broadcasts were a person reading out the newspaper. The newspaper existed as a medium. First radio broadcasts, a man sat there and read out the newspaper. The first TV broadcasts, they pointed the camera at the man reading out the newspaper, and we had TV news. The internet came around, and we created web pages as if they were pages from a book, right? Because that's what we know. And I think this is at the point where we are with AR. What are we going to do with our HoloLens? First of all, we're going to bring in our email and our calendar, but actually that's not what's going to happen. It's going to change and evolve as we learn how we should use this technology better to improve our lives, and we need to be forward thinking about that. So Rob, when you put up the toaster, right, with the screen on it, this is so wrong. We shouldn't be looking back in retrospect. How can we apply technology to things that already work perfectly well for their intended purpose? It ought to be about how can we imagine a better future and add to the world that we already have. Yeah.
There is a question there which has 3 words. It says as AR being used for disaster warning. And I would like to talk about it a little bit. And I mean,
sure,
again,
that's the screen I wanted.
It depends. It depends on how many people are wearing AR goggles or how many people are actually having those AR applications on their devices. But yes, it is possible, and actually we are doing that. Using the data generated from sensors, from the IoT sensors actually. But again, we are talking about disasters in the factory setting, in the industrial setting, not the natural disaster setting. So in industries, there are many zones in the factories, and some areas, there are like explosions possibility, there are possibilities of leakages and hazardous gases and poisonous gases leaking. And then these sensors are there. They knows that yes, there is a leakage of poisonous gas, and then if most of the workers in the factory are wearing a goggle, they get to know, even if they don't have to know every time, unless they are about to go in that particular direction. So it's a situational awareness generated by the IoT sensor projected on top of their headsets. So they can see, and then when they are moving in that direction, they can see, yeah, oh, please do not go there because right now there is a leakage there. You might stay away, and we are fixing it. So yes, this is possible, and this can be possible also in the natural calamities and things like that, where people can just see and then know which is the easiest way or which is the safest way to run. So you can generate that kind of path for safety for people. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Christine, please, can we have the questions back again, because we have no visibility of them?
There was actually a good question that I saw there. There was a question there that was asking about looking after chronic disease patients with home care services and so on. I don't know about the question seems to be aimed at the domestic helper, and I don't know of examples where it's aimed at the domestic helper, but there was a great application, I think it was great application in one of the Melbourne universities did around providing services for people with dementia and Alzheimer's and things like that. And what the application did was, again, through a mobile device at the moment, but eventually it'll be glasses, it provided them with reminders around their home of like where things are and so on. And this was shown to greatly improve the quality of their life because you know, someone who has dementia or one of these diseases, you know, imagine what their life is like. They get up in the room, they don't know where their socks are and their clothes are, because they don't remember anything. And so this application, as I said, you look around the room and it's highlighting, here's where, you know, it's labeling everything and improving their quality of life because they don't have to be embarrassed and go and deal with a domestic helper or feel inadequate. They're being helped by the technology. So I think that's a good application.
Okay. Right, so I just want to ask a little bit. Our topic was to include a little bit about AI as well, and thinking about the future. So we've covered off pretty much how IoT and AR are connected. Where does machine learning and artificial intelligence fit into this ecosystem?
Actually, I just read an article that says that in Japan, they actually have indicated that 50% of the jobs may be replaced by robots by 2035. Yeah. And they calculated the ROI for them. The cost of implementing this new machine learning systems for them is £1 million a year. And they are able to get back the ROI within 2 years. So for them, it's cost effective.
Yeah, so the business case is fairly clear. Right.
Before going into AI, there has been a few trends in the last 3-4 years which we have seen and we have experienced. First, we started off with the VR, the high-end systems. Then the smartphones with the graphics processing capability helped us to go into the AR world with the marker-based. Now we have devices without the marker-based. So VR, AR part was covered. Then came the platform play with the cloud computing, where the solutions were enabled through the cloud. Then IoT came about, like where we are able to connect the sensors, get the feedback. Now, if we add the AI component, then all this are like helping us out to have more value in the connected world, where the man and the machine, the interface between man and the machine is through the smart devices. And there, in that context, the AI platforms, whether it's Watson from IBM or Holmes from the other players, or some of the homegrown AI platforms that's coming about, especially in the commercial ventures, would have a lot of say. And GE, as an organization, is investing in Predict's platform only for their industrial knowledge workers. But we will see a huge amount of this intermingling of the various technologies and platforms coming about as we go for the enterprise solutions. It's more for the enterprise than for the consumers, which I see in the next 24 months.
Okay. All right. What about, is AR applicable in defence or homeland security industries, and are there any known examples in this area? So we think about the military. Maybe it's just not our area of expertise, but I'm sure if I was in the military, I'd have a budget for this and I'd be doing some work with it.
As I mentioned before, I think that there's huge potential in the heads-up displays for just emergency services personnel in general. And you know, I've predicted before at other panels and conferences that that's going to be a big industry ahead of a whole bunch of others, behind gaming, but ahead of a whole bunch of others that we're talking about, because it's just a fantastic natural application. You put on a visor, and as I said, a lot of the military or police or so on are used to wearing visors anyway, so they're getting past the fashion problems, they're getting past the clunkiness problems, and on that screen you can put all sorts of information. You can put you know, drone footage, so you can have a drone go into a site ahead of you and you can have that information playing if you're in the military. You can, if you're like a firefighter and you've got a downed colleague in the room next to you, you can see through walls because you can locate them relative to where you are. You know, I don't know of these applications being delivered yet, maybe the other panelists do, but as I said, I'm predicting that in the next 1 to 2 years, these are going to be absolutely direct applications, and a police officer walking through a crowd, it can be using facial recognition to be tracking and identifying, you know, suspects, people that they need to grab. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're about at the end of our time. We've made it through. Just before we go, I want to thank the panelists very much for your time today. Really appreciated it. I just want to make one recommendation. If people are interested in this topic and want to get up to speed, There's a book written recently by Scoble and Israel called The Fourth Transformation, which speaks about this transformation of computing to augmented reality and AI. It's not a long book, it's not too heavy going, you can get through it reasonably quickly, and it does lay out and answer some of those questions that we've looked at about how long will this AR, AI world take to come about. Okay, thank you.